Hello everyone. Thank you for stopping by my YouTube channel, Get Crafty with Sally. My name is Sally Poole. I am an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up. And today I will be making this fun card with the Watercolor World stamp set. If you don't have it already, you might want to grab it. It is on page 119 in the annual catalog. You can find it right here. It's a large stamp. The item number is 160708 and it's $23. It is an awesome stamp. Like I said, it is a large stamp, so it almost takes up a whole 5.5 by 4.25. So I'm actually going to cut it down a little bit smaller than that. You might have seen these online where people have heat embossed them, colored them with the inks and sponge daubers, just colored the whole thing one color in ink, colored different colors on the stamp with their Stampin' markers. You can't use the blends, but you can use the markers. So let me show you what you're going to need to make this. Let me also show you the inside of this. I'm using, for the sentiments, I have 2 stamps from the Begin with a Dream stamp set, and it was a host set, so it's not available anymore. I'm using the You Make a Difference and Kindness Changes the World One Heart at a Time. I thought those went together great, so I did put the Kindness Changes the World One Heart at a Time on the inside, and I normally leave the inside blank, but I thought that that was great for this one. So let me show you what you're going to need to make this. You will need for your base, a piece of cardstock that's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4.25. You'll need 2 pieces of colored cardstock, 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. This one is Sweet Sorbet that I'm using. It's hard to pick out the color that you're going to use ahead of time because these cards all come out different. So you kind of will want to pick out the coordinating color when you're done. Let me show you a couple other examples that I have. This one, I used Orchid Oasis because I wanted to bring out the little bit of Orchid Oasis I used on that card stamp. And then this one I used Fresh Freesia. And I also used Fresh Freesia for the card base, and the matte behind the stamped panel is basic black. So you can probably see what I'm saying about you don't want to pick out your cardstock color before you've stamped this. You could, but it would be a gamble. Okay, so back to our supplies. You'll also need 2 pieces of 4" by 5.25. One of these is for the inside with the sentiment on it, and one of them is for the front that we're going to stamp on. And I actually used a whole 8.5 by 11 piece when I stamped, because I didn't want to have this small of a space and mess it up when I got all my colors down and then finally stamped it. You'll probably understand that a little bit better as we go along. You'll also need a piece of 5/8 by 2 5/8 for the mat underneath the sentiment, and just a scrap of basic white to stamp the sentiment on. So let me show you how we're going to do this. I hope it works because this is pretty big to get in the camera. I have a glass mat that I'm just going to apply the ink on. You could use a craft mat. You could use any other non-porous surface that you can think of. I don't know, maybe even a cookie sheet or something like that. I don't know, I haven't tried it. So what I'm going to do is grab my chair. What I did was I kind of set my stamp on here and I taped this off with painter's tape because I didn't want to waste a whole bunch of ink. So you can see that it goes around the edge of my stamp. And I'm just going to take random colors. I think I've got 6 here. And I'm going to, let's start with Lemon Lime Twist. I don't know if any of you have ever done the baby wipe technique where you put drops on baby wipe and then use that as your ink pad. This is kind of the same, but I'm not actually dropping entire drops of ink. I'm going to squeeze this bottle a little bit and just tap it on the glass. So I don't want huge drops of ink. Otherwise you would really use a lot of ink. And obviously this is pretty random. So now I'm going to take my Lemon Lolly, and I did find that the lighter colors seem to, I don't want to say they work the best, they are easier to work with. The dark colors tend to get muddy really quickly because I am going to try to stamp more than one image. This is Fresh Freesia. And obviously I am putting ink down where places where the stamp is actually not going to touch, but we don't really know that until we get to that point. So this one is Sweet Sorbet. And I'm using Flirty Flamingo. And you can use whatever colors you want, less or more. I don't think it makes a difference. You can just play around with this and see what works best for you. I am going to add a little bit of Gorgeous Grape. This is a pretty saturated color, so this is one of those that if you put very much of it on here and try to get very many images, it's going to end up all muddy. So there, let's see, I put 5 little drops on there. So now I'm going to take my little water mister sprayer. Let me spray it, make sure it's going the right way. And I don't want to put a whole lot of water on here. I just want to get a tiny bit. So I'm going to hold it up at least a foot above the ink here and spritz it a few times. So now you can see the water activating the ink. Then I'm going to take my stamp pad and I'm just going to place it down on that ink. And I'm not going to try to wiggle it around or do anything like that. I'm going to stamp it on this paper over here. You probably won't be able to see the process, and I don't want to move this whole glass mat yet. So I'm going to lift this up, bring it over here, stamp it in the middle of this 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And that's what we come up with. That's pretty cool, isn't it? So I'll just set that aside and let it dry. I am going to take another piece of paper, and I'm going to stamp this off a few times to get this excess ink off, because I don't want to set it back down in the other ink and get it all muddy again. So this is what I've stamped off on this one. Here's a couple of the previous stamp offs that I've done. So I've got that sheet, and I've got this sheet, and this is some pretty dark colors. And I did use a lot of water on this one, and it kind of blurred the images when they were stamped. So these might be fun to save and maybe die cut some flowers out of or something like that. I will try that later. So now I'm going to, let me get another sheet of paper. I'm going to actually turn the stamp upside down so I'm not laying it in the same place. I'll put it back down in the ink. Give it a little press. Bring it over to my paper. Give that a press. So now we were able to get a second image stamped from the same bit of ink. So you can continue on doing this as long as you think your ink is good. You can also add ink to this. Let me do one more, and we'll see if it's getting to the point of you need to add ink or start over. Usually the first two images are the most vivid and the best. So there's another one, and it came out okay, but you can see we're losing a little definition in a couple of the places here. But like I said, you could drop some more ink on there, give it a little bit of a spritz, and then continue on your way. So let me move this glass mat out of here. Hopefully I set it somewhere where it's not going to come crashing down. And let's get I already have a piece of stamped image ready to go. So let's put our card together. Grab a piece of graph paper. Hopefully that's not too crooked. And let's get our supplies that we needed. So here's my base. That is folded at 4 1/4, and we'll score it and give it a nice crisp edge. So like I said, I stamped mine on 8.5 by 11, and then I cut them down to 4 by 5 1/4. So this one's all ready to go. So I will, let me grab my tape runner. I'll put some tape on the back of this. And I'm also going to add a little sparkle to the front of this with my Champagne Glimmer Mist. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra tape on the back of this because when it gets wet, it does tend to try to kind of pull up in the middle. So let's try to lay that down and get our edges even. That looks good. And now let's grab our spritzer. I'm going to get another piece of scrap paper. And so this is Champagne Glimmer Mist. I don't have the little bottle out here. And 70% alcohol. It's mainly, you would fill up your container 3/4 of the way with the alcohol and then just put a few drops of the glimmer mist in there and see if it looks strong enough. You can see it all swirling around in there. And if it's not strong enough, you can just add some more. Hopefully I won't get it all over everything else. So give that a couple little spritzes. And I'm sure that you can't see the shine, but it's really pretty. And it just takes just a few seconds for the alcohol to dry. So let's add some more of our tape to the back of the Sweet Sorbet card. I'm gonna add a little extra again. I'm gonna grab my card base. Sorry for my reach. That is hard for me to see. Just a second. All right, so there's that part. Next, let's take our 5/8 by 2 5/8 piece of Sweet Sorbet, and I've already stamped the sentiment, "You make a difference," out, and I have die cut it with, let me grab these dies, the rectangle stitched framelits dies, and I used the smallest die in this little section, and it fit perfectly. I didn't have to do any weird cuts or anything on it. So I'm going to add a little bit of green glue, Tombow glue, to the back of this sentiment. And hopefully I'm not getting out of the camera. We will adhere it to the little Sweet Sorbet piece. And I think on this one, if I can find my dimensionals, I'm going to pop it up. Let's see. I have no idea. Here they are. So let's grab a few dimensionals. I guess I should, I do have that on my base. I'll put 3 dimensionals on the back. Take the covers off, and I will put it right down here. The bottom of the card. Let's do our inside. So I've got my 4 by 5 1/4 piece of basic white. I've already stamped "Kindness Changes the World, One Heart at a Time" in Memento black, tuxedo black ink. And we're going to tape that down to the Sweet Sorbet piece. don't know how many of you have got to get a peek at the new mini catalog yet, but oh my gosh, you guys are gonna love it. I have a huge wish list already. There's a ton of stuff that I want, and normally when we get a new catalog, I'm one of those people that's like, yeah, I like a couple. There's a couple that I might buy. Of course, after people start creating things and posting them on Facebook and YouTube, I'm like, oh, I love that set. I have to have it too. So I usually do end up with quite a few bundles. Anyway, there's some really, really beautiful Christmas sets, fall, autumn, some fun Halloween stuff, and then general stuff, some pretty floral sets, of course. Everybody loves the floral sets. So let's see, all we have left to do is add some jewels, and I am using I have the Tinsel Gems 4-pack and the Tinsel Gems 3-pack, and I finally wised up and started writing the colors on these packs. This kind of card, you probably don't really need to be too picky about colors. So let's just grab, I have the Lemon Lime Twist in here, and that is in this set of gems. So let's put a Lemon Lime Twist down here. And how about a, let's do, I'm gonna do a small berry burst, and I'll put it up here. And then I'm gonna take a large fresh freesia and put it over here. It just gives it a little extra bling, and I think that it needed something with all this white around the edges. So anyway, that is the card for today. I love it. I love the sentiments together. Let me know what you think about it. Let me show you these other ones again. So you can see how varied everything comes out. And of course they look different too, depending on, you know, what cardstock you pair it with. So as usual, if you enjoy my videos, please hit the like button, give me the thumbs up, share the video with your friends and family, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That would be awesome. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next time. Thanks.